Mr. President, thank you so much for talking to VOA.
Thank you very much. Happy to be with you.
We're very close to the US elections. How do you think the outcome of those elections impacts the Afghan peace process?
Well, I don't think the outcome of the elections will have any major or an impact of a nature that will deviate the process. No. It may be, there may be a difference in approaches or in speed of things, but not on the overall objective of the United States for hopefully a settlement in Afghanistan and the reduction of the troops.
President Trump recently tweeted that all US troops should come home by Christmas. Did it have any impact on the process, on Doha, on thinking in Kabul? Did it change anything?
It did not. We know President Trump's views on the conflict in Afghanistan and the US involvement. He has been speaking fairly clearly, rather very, very clearly, on the withdrawal of troops, on the significant reduction of troops, if not the complete withdrawal of troops, and on bringing a settlement and on allowing the Afghans to determine their own future, which we respect. That's exactly what we should be doing.
Let's talk about the Afghan peace process, starting with the deal that the Taliban and the United States signed in February. Do you think that was a good deal?
The deal, as far as it envisages an end to conflict in Afghanistan, an end to fighting in Afghanistan, an end to fratricide and Afghan killing, is wonderful. We want, not now, we want yesterday this to end. Whether the intention in the United States is for durable peace and settlement in Afghanistan is something that we should see in the process. We want to be friends with all our neighbors. We also want to be friends with the United States. We want a civilized relationship, a friendly relationship. We don't want a relationship based on the export of extremism or radicalism to us. Now, having said this, the peace process that the US is bringing, we now see that it is in great coordination with Pakistan. We understand Pakistan's role, but peace for us is one thing, and deals between the United States of America and Pakistan on us is a different issue. That we don't want, that we will resist. It was these deals exactly when the Soviet Union withdrew between the United States and Pakistan that got us to the misery that we have today.
As you're talking of Pakistan, let's talk about other regional countries as well. What do you see their role right now? Is it right now constructive? Is it positive?
We very much hope that all our neighbors will participate and support the Afghan peace process, and that all our neighbors will take this opportunity to work with the United States and other neighbors of Afghanistan and major powers, Russia, China, India, to be part of it in a very significant way, so that no country is left wondering as to what's going on. And there should be no behind-the-deals schemes there. We want transparency. We don't want Afghanistan to be a place of conflict of interest between countries. We don't want Afghanistan to be a place of rivalry. That is where we have suffered. We want Afghanistan to be a place of cooperation. This is not an Afghan war or the war for Afghan interests. This is Afghans being killed for larger foreign objectives.
So how do you end it? Let's talk about that. What do you do? Right now there are negotiations going on in Doha. They seem to be at a deadlock. How do you break that deadlock?
Well, when we went to Moscow last year, It was the same Taliban, the same delegation almost, the same leadership, and we had no issues. We sat down and we talked. Look, if the intention in the United States is for peace in Afghanistan, these talks will succeed. I have no doubt. And if the intention in Pakistan, and together for Pakistan and the United States, is for peace in Afghanistan, these talks will succeed. And we welcome it.
You mentioned Moscow. You've interacted with Taliban quite a bit. Do you think the Taliban have changed and become more tolerant as they claim, different from the 90s? Or do you think these are the same Taliban, they've just become more political savvy?
The Taliban are Afghans. They have suffered as much as the rest of Afghans have suffered. They've also lost their children. They've also lost their homes. They've also been bombed and bombarded. Their homes raided. They've suffered like we have suffered. So the suffering, ma'am, belongs to all the Afghan people. We, the Afghan people, Taliban and others and Taliban. It is this recognition that's there in all of us. How to use this recognition of the tragedy that we have faced, part of it our own making, part of it someone else's making, is the element, is the miracle, should I say, that will bring us to peace and settlement. And I'm sure that day will come. It's already, I believe, near us.
But what could be a possible governance model that will be acceptable to both?
Right now, the priority for both sides, for both Afghan sides, should be to bring the violence against the Afghan people to an immediate end. As to the future form of government or structure of the state, that is then the decision of the Afghan people, the collective decision of the Afghan people, of the Taliban and all other Afghans. Whether your question is about some rights, the rights of women to educate, the rights of all girls to educate, the rights of our society to have progress and a good life, that is of course not compromisable.
Both sides are sitting together in Doha. What do you think about it? Do you think the venue is right? Do you think the teams are right? Do you think this has hope of going somewhere?
The venue is right if there is the required freedom of movement between the two sides. In Moscow, we could call them any minute and just get together. Is that the case in Qatar? I don't know. If that isn't the case in Qatar, then that's not the right venue. A venue is the freedom to interact freely at any time you want. The place doesn't matter. The venue for us means that. The right venue is where the Taliban and the other Afghans, both sides, can meet anytime they want as Afghans. Has Qatar provided this? Good enough. It has not provided this. It won't lead us anywhere.
And what about the teams? Do you think this is the right team of Afghans to negotiate with the Taliban?
Yes, it's all right. We support them, and we want them to produce results, sure.
What do you see as your next role?
Citizen Karzai, doing all he can to bring peace to Afghanistan and to return Afghanistan to a dignified life.
During your time as president, you tried very hard to get Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar released from the Pakistani prison where he was. Now that he is out, do you talk to him?
No, we don't talk directly, but there is an exchange of information, but not in a direct way.
Do you have any, since you talked to Mullah Abdul Ghani Baradar, do you have other backdoor channels to Taliban? Do you talk about the peace process?
We do.
What feeling do you get from them?
A feeling that they very much want peace, just like we want peace. A feeling that, as I've said earlier, a minute ago, that they have suffered as we have suffered, and that they want the suffering of the Afghan people to end.
Well, let's go back in history around like 19 years or so. There was a letter sent to you by Mullah Omar, people say, in which he surrendered to you. What happened? What was that story?
Yes, that was not a letter by the late Mullah Omar. That was a letter by the Council of Ministers of the Taliban, the government of the Taliban. And I was in a village north of Kandahar. That was the day that an American bomb had also wounded us all, and I was being cleaned of the wounds and shrapnel and all that when a Taliban delegation came to see me. And they brought this letter with them, which recognized the emergence of the interim government, and which said, well, accordingly, they are transferring power to that government. But I was simplistic. There was no complicated thinking there in me. So I delivered the letter back to them. I said, good, well, you can take this and announce it tonight on the radio, so the Afghan people will hear it. I don't know where that letter is now. I hope we will find it someday and keep it in our archives and historic archives.
Now that you have that political acumen acquired over 2 decades of serving in various political offices, and looking at all the developments on the ground and in the region, are you hopeful that this pre-post process, these negotiations will succeed?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I must say again, we are fully behind this process initiated by the US. And we very much hope that the United States will be conducting the process transparently and in full consultation with all those major powers who have a stake in peace in Afghanistan and in the region. That will be the way to succeed. And that we want the United States, of course, it has to work with Pakistan. We welcome that. I mean, we recognize that necessity. But we also must say and warn of the fears that we have, that peace is one thing, and deal between Pakistan and America and Afghanistan is another thing. That we are concerned about, a bad deal that will be detrimental to Afghanistan. A good one that sees the good of Afghanistan is welcome. Pakistanis are our brothers and sisters, and we have love for them, for the people, definitely. But for the establishment in Pakistan, I hope they have recognized that the future will be one of a civilized relationship, not one of the use of extremism against our country.
Mr. President, thank you once again for joining us.
Good to talk to you. Wonderful, wonderful.